Top 10 criminals who hadn't given their options much thought. People say life is difficult, but being foolish makes it even more difficult. Here are 5 folks who didn't think things through properly and wound up in a mess as a result. For the most part, that is. The others were already in disarray, but their lack of foresight compounded the problem. Number 10. Wukashwanovsky. The Wukashwanovsky, known as Goldilocks burglar, broke into a house while the owners were away on holiday. Unlike previous burglars, Chwanovsky did not take everything they owned. Rather, he spruced up their place. While it would be lovely to leave on vacation and come home to a spotless house, the fact that Chwanovsky was an unwanted visitor made this a disturbing discovery. Chwanovsky's worst blunder was staying too long. When the homeowners returned from their vacation, he was found sleeping in their bed, so he must have made himself very comfortable or worked himself to exhaustion cleaning. First and foremost, make sure you leave before they return if you break into someone's home. Number 9. Jasper Staringa. It's unavoidable that you'll be discovered for your wrongdoings at some point, but some people make it more likely by their choices. When officials discovered the death of a little girl and initiated an investigation, there wasn't much to go on. However, there was a lighter with what the cops thought was the murderer's DNA on it. Authorities decided to request DNA samples from everyone in the area of the incident after a period of time elapsed with no new leads. They alerted everyone that an investigation was being conducted as well as the subject of the investigation. The goal was for one of the 6,600 samples to have a similar DNA match, which would lead officials to a relative who could help solve the crime. Imagine your surprise when one of the samples proved to be a perfect match. Jasper Staringa offered a DNA sample that matched the DNA of the lighter. Number 8. Donald ChipPugh. Some people adore being photographed while others loathe it. Regardless of personal preference, the majority of people have seen negative representations of themselves. Most people also know when it's right to speak up about photos they don't like and when it's appropriate to remain silent. On the other hand, Donald ChipPugh appears to have missed the notice. When Pugh's arrest warrant arrived, he emailed them a photo of himself that he thought was more flattering. Most people would agree that today is a good time to hide if you have an arrest warrant out for you. Pugh was clearly so displeased with his photograph that he forgot it wasn't in his best interests to notify the authorities. Number 7. Suryako Balmacita. Some important documents should be brought with you while others should be left at home. While there are some constants, your location and occupation have a significant impact on which documents you should keep and which you should discard. Suryako Balmacita discovered the hard way that carrying identification isn't always a good idea. Balmacita and a gang of pals attempted to rob a house but quickly realized they had picked the incorrect one. When the homeowner approached them with a handgun in his hand, they quickly retreated and everything should have been great after that. Balmacita had carried a rucksack with him that contained a lot of personal information. In his haste to flee the unsuccessful robbery, he left his bags at the establishment he was attempting to loot. The homeowner handed up Balmacita's school ID, which he had left in the bag, to the officers. Number 6. Ricardo Cardona. Criminals aren't made up of exhausted individuals. Don't be like the sleepy people on this list and commit crimes while you're asleep. Better yet, don't do anything wrong at all. Ricardo Cardona neglected to employ critical thinking abilities and disregarded this life lesson. Cardona was caught after stealing sausages from a grocery while drunk. He then exited the building and might have gotten away with the sausages if Cardona hadn't returned to the store to sleep off his exhaustion and inebriation. Instead of waking up in time to leave, he was captured while sleeping. If you make it out alive, learn from Cardona's mistake and don't return to the crime scene. Number 5. Trevor Jones. Everyone benefits from a little rest and relaxation, especially when they are stressed or things aren't going well. While social media is a great way to unwind without putting too much effort, we should be mindful of the information we share with the world when we use it. Trevor Jones was robbing a house when the owner arrived home and took Jones' wallet and keys before calling the cops. After fleeing and discovering a new area to plunder, Jones took a break. Regrettably, he chose to do it on the homeowner's computer by accessing his Facebook account. And when he went, he didn't log out or take the computer with him. If you insist on going into a stranger's house while they're away, don't leave any evidence of your identity behind. Number 4. Paul Benson. Groceries appear to consume a significant portion of the average household budget, so it's understandable that people look for ways to save money on them. However, stealing isn't the best option. Paul Benson pleaded guilty to shoplifting from a supermarket. Benson was apprehended by grocery employees and chose to run after selecting the items he wanted to take without paying for. Paul made a lot of dubious decisions on this expedition, including being videotaped. If Benson had taken a moment to think, he could have easily avoided the greatest misstep aside from committing robbery in the first place. On the back of his Manchester United football shirt, his surname was embroidered. If you want to get away with a crime, it's best not to wear a large name tag that identifies you. Number 3. Michael Baker. Another example of oversharing on social media. While we all enjoy celebrating our accomplishments and sharing them on social media with our friends and family, we should think about what we're sharing with the rest of the world. And there's the possibility that what we post will be seen by more people than we think. Michael Baker thought taking gas from a cop car was a fantastic idea that he wanted to share with the rest of the world. While he was siphoning gas, his girlfriend took a snapshot of him posing by the car. It's all well and good to have bragging rights, but when he posted the photo on Facebook, he went too far. Friends, family, and local law enforcement officials were all able to see what he was up to. If you're going to do anything stupid, consider who you'll tell, else the entire world will know. Number 2. Craig Garnet. We're all constantly picking up new life lessons. Some of us must learn the hard way, while others are lucky enough to learn more quickly. Some people, on the other hand, do not appear to learn even when it is the hard way. Craig Garnet received a 10-year term for robbing numerous banks and retailers. That doesn't seem unusual. Robberies aren't commonplace. Garnet's story is more noteworthy since while on parole, he robbed a few more banks and was jailed again. While doing 10 years in prison for his actions, he did not give up bank robbery or learn how to execute it better. Instead, after writing a bad letter that caused an attempted bank robbery to fail, Garnet was quickly re-incarcerated. Number 1. Christopher Gifford. We might sometimes be just as bad for what we don't do as we are for what we do. Failure to report for jury service, for example, is a criminal offense. Sure, if you didn't show up, you didn't do anything, but that's the issue: you didn't do anything. Christopher Gifford is one of these crooks. He would not have had any problems if he had just thought about what he needed to do. A zebra cobra was spotted near Gifford's home, prompting police to investigate him. Hundreds of snakes were discovered, many of which were venomous. Having these pets had nothing to do with Gifford's difficulties. He wasn't so much breaking the laws that applied to owning them as he was breaking the rules that applied to owning them. The restrictions included having appropriate enclosures and reporting escaped animals. It's fine to have unusual interests, but make sure you're following the law by considering all parts of the applicable legislation, not just one small section.